Hi guys, welcome back to another Hugh Jeffreys video. In this video, I'm going to be attempting to repair my kitchen TV, which blew up with a bang a few months ago. This TV was purchased over 10 years ago for $400, and was not a cheap TV at the time. TV repair itself has died out after the introduction of flat screen TVs in the late 2000s. While TVs are not complex devices to repair, most people choose to just throw out a broken one and buy a new one. However, I'm not wasting hundreds of dollars on a good quality TV if I can repair the one I already have. The first thing I'm going to do is open up the TV and take a look at the inside. This way we can see what caused the TV to shut off after a loud bang. Now, because this is a device that plugs directly into mains power, you want to have a good knowledge of electronics and proceed with a repair like this at your own risk, as the power supply inside could still contain power even after it's unplugged. For my specific TV, I had to remove the stand and all of the screws around the perimeter of the device. After all the screws had been removed, all that was holding on the front bezel was some plastic clips which could be removed with a spudger. Once I got the front panel off, I had to disconnect one cable going to the LED and infrared control board, and then I could start disconnecting the LCD panel. Now, there was various cables for the backlight as well as the signal cable which had to be disconnected before I could remove the panel. Now that we're inside the device, I'm going to turn my attention to the power supply, which is responsible for converting the mains voltage into voltage that the device itself can use. Now, I wanted to make sure the high voltage capacitor was discharged. To do this, I shorted it out with an insulated electrical safe screwdriver to make sure there was no residual charge in that capacitor. Once it had been discharged, I can disconnect the power inlet cable and the 4 screws holding in the power supply itself and remove it from the TV. Now, as the top actually looked okay on the power supply, I flipped it over and saw this huge burn mark in the bottom of the plastic sheet, which insulates the power supply from shorting against the metal frame. You can see once it's removed all of the damaged components, including what looked to be some resistors and an IC chip. Now, it'd be awesome if I could replace these individual components, but as I wasn't able to find a schematic, I had to use the model number found on the power supply and look that up on AliExpress, and there I found a replacement power supply for just under $90. Now, I believe this is a used power supply, but that doesn't really bother me as the TV itself is quite old. Before I assemble it all back together and see if it works, I'm going to give the inside a quick clean. Now, I used some compressed air hooked up to a industrial compressor and blew away all the loose dust inside the device. Then I came along with a sponge and cleaned up any other bits of dust and dirt that weren't removed with the air. Once I was happy with the device, it was time to install that new power supply in its place, screwing in the 4 screws and connecting up the 2 connections to the power supply. Aside from the color, the only difference between the 2 power supplies is that the new one lacks a ground wire going between 2 of the screw holes. However, all the screw holes are grounded on the metal plate below, so it doesn't make any difference. Now that the power supply is ready to go, I can reconnect the LCD cable and the backlight driver cables to the power supply. Now, this was actually quite difficult to do given the length of these backlight cables. But once they were connected, I could reinstall the 6 screws around the perimeter of the LCD panel, reconnect up the wire going to the infrared board, and snap back on the bezel. Before we put the screws in, I'm going to plug in a power cable and test out the TV. And look at that, it booted right back up and is working once again. So now all that's left to do is install all of the screws that hold the frame to the bezel and reattach the stand so we can actually view this TV without it facing the ground. I can snap back on the base of the stand and reinstall the 4 screws, and we're done. So, we've successfully revived this 10-year-old TV, saving it from going to landfill for under $90. While it's not the highest resolution or best picture quality compared to newer TVs, this one does the job as a way to watch TV in the kitchen. Plus, many low-end TVs nowadays don't last much more than a year. I've seen many LG TVs where their main controller boards completely die, so while the TV has power, it won't turn on. Hopefully, with a bit of luck, I can keep this TV around and functioning for another 10 years. And on that note, this has been a Hugh Jeffreys video. If you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button and consider checking out the electronics repair playlist for more videos just like this one. Also make sure to follow me on my social media, link for which is down in the description. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.